of the inaugural FIFA Peace Prize, or whatever they're calling it, says it might be time for the United States to go to war for oil. You might remember, of course, that Donald Trump said he is really the only person who would keep us out of new wars. You might remember that Donald Trump was, at least retroactively, very critical of George W. Bush's decision to go into Iraq in 2003. And you might remember all sorts of different ways, probably dozens, in which this becomes a complete and total contradiction of everything Donald Trump told us that he stood for. But regardless, Donald Trump, before getting on his plane just hours ago, telling us that when it comes to Venezuela, things were taken away from us, getting land, oil rights, everything we had, and that we want it back. The most direct, clear, and arguably bloodthirsty statement so far about what Trump is cooking up with regard to Venezuela. Let's take a look.
Yeah, what was that?
Getting land, oil rights, whatever we had, they took it away because we had a president that maybe wasn't watching. But they're not going to do that. We want it back. They took our oil rights. We had a lot of oil there. As you know, they threw our companies out, and we want it back.
You know, in some sense, it's wild to see a president just come out and say he might like to wage a war for oil. And the reason I say that in general is that we're supposed to hide that. We expect presidents to hide if that's really the motivation. We're supposed to say it's about democracy or it's about human rights or whatever. But in a sense, if Trump is simply being honest, well, I welcome that. And now we can criticize the idea because Donald Trump said that the United States will stay out of new conflicts and get out of existing ones if he becomes the president of the United States. But there's another layer to this. I don't know that this is really the reason Trump wants to go after Venezuela. Maybe it is. But I want to propose to you that there's a possibility that this is actually about regime change, and this is about getting Nicolas Maduro out. I would respect Trump a lot more if the reason that he wants to go to war with Venezuela is not about oil, but about getting Nicolas Maduro out. I would respect him more if he just said it. Now, I wouldn't support it, as terrible as I think Nicolas Maduro is, and you all know that I was not a Chavez guy either. I don't support the United States doing regime change in Latin America. I, as an Argentinian, know a little bit about the history of the United States getting involved in Latin American regime change to know it's a terrible idea. It doesn't work out well. Putting in puppet leaders for the United States as part of the removal, even of bad leaders, rarely works out well. But from the standpoint of just honesty, if Trump came out and said, hey, you know what? I'm sick of this Maduro guy. He's a disaster. And it's not even really about the Venezuelan people. It's just I don't like the guy and I want to be a bigger and stronger boy. And I'm going to get him out. At least he would be honest if that's the case. Now, it is, of course, possible that the real reason Trump wants to do this is the oil, in which case I go back to the anti-war president, the winner of the inaugural FIFA Peace Prize, is going to start a new war, especially for oil. How many Americans do you think would support a war against Venezuela at this point in time? How many parents would say, if my kid signs up to fight for this one, that would be a really valuable contribution to America's becoming great internationally or whatever? Or is it the last thing I want my kid to do is sign up to die for this orange clown's war games that he can't seem to get away from? Now, I think there's another aspect of this that's important to consider, and I hope that this is sort of useful and feels relevant to you, which is that even if you didn't have a moral problem, there's sort of like 10 layers here, right? If you believe that the real reason Trump wants to do this is oil, and if you don't have a moral problem with that, there might be people who go, oh, if it is for oil, that's a totally legitimate reason to go and invade a country. Okay, let's then go to the specifics. The United States is extracting more crude oil than any other country in history. And we have talked about this, as you know. These are just numbers. When it was Biden and Trump said, oh, energy production is down, I told you, no, actually, we are extracting more oil than ever, and natural gas put together. And now that it is Trump, we are still doing that. This is maybe the point in American history at which we would least need to go through any special effort to recover or gain oil from abroad, because we are producing more than any of it, more of it than we have ever before ourselves right now. And so even if you have no problem with Trump going to war for oil, even if you have no problem taking countries' oil, whatever, right? And the seizure of the tanker a couple of weeks ago, last week, may have been a preview of this. Why now? Because we've got more of the stuff than we know what to do with. Not to mention, we are kind of, some of us, trying to get away from oil and fossil fuels, at least to the degree that is possible today. So it's all crazy, and it is the winner of the FIFA Peace Prize who would be doing it. Trump also, during this brief exchange with reporters after the bombshell Vanity Fair piece in which Trump's chief of staff, Susie Wiles, revealed a number of very damaging beliefs and behind-the-scenes claims about the Trump administration, Trump was asked, is she going to stay as your chief of staff or might you be firing her? Here's what Donald Trump had to say.
So thank you very much for being there. Yeah, she's doing a great job.
All right, so as I told you over the last couple of days, this doesn't really mean anything in Trump world, but it is relevant. What I mean is Trump might be behind her today and firing her tomorrow. It's just, okay, it's a point in time. But it is relevant that Trump hasn't yet given the go-ahead for the full-blown character assassination of Susie Wiles, blame Susie Wiles. There's sort of two ways that when inconvenient media reports come out about the Trump administration handles it. The first one is you stand behind the individual in your administration, you attack the media. That's what they've been doing so far. We did a deep dive yesterday. There's lacking context for what Susie Wiles said, and they didn't publish the nice things anybody said and all of that stuff. That's one option. The other is, I hired him, but he became a loser, and he's now criticizing me like a dog and all of this sort of stuff. We are not there yet with Susie Wiles. We may be, but we just